A hiker who vanished for 50 days in the northern Rockies has been found alive, though weak. His family in Kamloops, along with volunteers who joined the search, told CBC News that relief swept through the community when word of his discovery spread. The manager of the Buffalo Inn at Pink Mountain said workers from nearby well sites spotted Sam Benastic walking along a service road, using 2 sticks for support, and with his sleeping bag cut and wrapped around his legs for warmth. He knew how to survive. "It's amazing," the manager said. Sam was transported to Fort Nelson Hospital, where doctors are treating frostbite and exhaustion, and his parents are on their way to see him. Records show he was first reported missing after failing to return home from a planned 10-day trip in early October. On October 7th, the northern sky over Fort St. John carried the first pale light of winter. Frost clung to the windshields on 100th Street, and trucks heading toward the Alaska Highway left trails of vapor in the cold air. At 20 years old, Sam Benastic loaded supplies for a 10-day camping trip into his vehicle, his red Honda dirt bike strapped for transport toward the head of Redfern Kiley Provincial Park. Records show he carried a toque, warm gloves, rain gear, a hatchet, and food that included peanut butter, a detail his mother later emphasized when explaining his preparedness. The park lay 250 miles northwest of Fort St. John at the far end of a corridor where ranch land thins into alpine valleys. Provincial investigator Detective Alan Kerr, then 8 years into service and previously assigned to wildfire evacuation planning, logged the departure details once the trip was confirmed. At that point, no cause for alarm existed. The young man was known as an avid outdoors enthusiast, but the place he was entering was far from forgiving. Redfern Kiley is described by BC Parks as alpine tundra, with steep rocky mountain peaks, few shelters, and sudden weather swings. Even before snow is fully set, the air could turn dangerous overnight. The question hung in the background. Would 10 days in such terrain be routine for Sam, or would the season's first storms test his equipment beyond expectation? By October 17th, the line between adventure and emergency crossed. That date marked the scheduled end of Sam's trip, but when no message or appearance came, his family in Kamloops filed him missing. According to reports, he had not returned from the 10-day outing and was last confirmed at the Redfern Lake trailhead, where his red Honda dirt bike was observed. Detective Kerr, assigned duty on northern missing persons files, began checking logs. The trailhead in question sits near Keeley Creek, a route where access falls away quickly into untracked forest. There are no maintained shelters, no potable water, and hazards include both grizzly and black bears. Kerr called the provincial park's dispatcher for Redfern Kiley to confirm the profile. What he heard confirmed the risk. The park is listed as extremely remote, without services, and in October the days already shortened to less than 11 hours of light. The investigator began pulling topo maps and overlaying Sam's expected loop. The hinge was simple, yet grave. If Sam had made camp as intended, was he still at that location, or had he already been forced to move in search of food or water? By October 18th, search protocols were activated. RCMP detachments, coordinated with volunteer search and rescue from Prince George, Fort St. John, and regional towns. Adam Hawkins, one of the early volunteers, later described incredibly challenging winter conditions, with over 6 inches of snow already on the ground and temperatures dropping past -20 degrees Fahrenheit at night. Records show more than 120 volunteers entered rotation during the first week, some on foot, others on snowmobiles and ATVs. Helicopters were tasked to sweep ridgelines and valley corridors. Kerr, as duty investigator, logged the deployment with timestamps. Canine teams from RCMP were staged at the Redfern trailhead, where handlers provided scent items taken from Sam's personal clothing. Dogs marked a general direction, but no consistent trail. The first 3 days covered grids of 20-foot spacing radiating from Redfern Lake, with volunteers marking fallen logs, streams, and any signs of fire ash. No sign of Sam appeared. With every silent grid, the search chart darkened. If Sam had left the immediate trail corridor, had he drifted farther into Cayley Creek, or had snow already concealed the only traces of his path? By October 19th, staging had expanded. Volunteer units camped near Pink Mountain, the service stop along the Alaska Highway, south of the park. Pink Mountain, known for its truck stop, cafe, and the Buffalo Inn, became both lodging point and community bulletin board. Families of searchers checked in at the inn for warmth, while convoys of trucks pushed north toward staging points. Mike Reed, general manager of the Buffalo Inn, would later recall the Bonastic parents staying there more than 20 days while searches went on. Kerr noted in his reports the growing scope. Mounted search and rescue from Randall County were deployed along the Canadian river bottoms, stretching east toward Lake Marvin, sweeping floodplains for shelter signs. Aerial units crisscrossed the alpine lakes, including Kiley Lake and smaller unnamed tarns, visible only from above. Standard procedure called for photographing every possible snow depression or smoke plume. None matched human presence. The hinge tightened further. If Sam had indeed moved into creek beds, had storms already erased his tracks before rescuers could verify? On October 20th, temperatures fell below -20 overnight. Volunteers reported frost building inside tents, water canisters freezing solid by dawn. RCMP, aerial support, logged. Visibility down to less than half a mile in flurries. Despite this, searches pressed on. Kerr worked with helicopter crews to check avalanche chutes on Redfern's northern escarpments, scanning for slide debris. Ground units grid-walked 30-man lines, separated by 20 feet, covering over 2 miles in a day. Still no discovery. As procedure required, Kerr kept time-stamped entries of all attempted lines. By evening, volunteers were rotated out for safety, replaced by fresh crews from Fort St. John and Prince George. The unanswered question deepened. Was Sam already beyond the perimeter, or had he found shelter so well hidden that even aerial heat scans could not catch his presence? By October 21st, momentum slowed. Search dogs brought from provincial prison facilities in Amarillo picked up faint scent trails east of the dirt road where Sam's vehicle had been last noted. But the scent dissipated 3/4 of a mile out near a marshy slough. This was logged as a possible lead, but the dogs could not pursue further due to waterlogged ground. Kerr recorded the attempt as inconclusive. Meanwhile, family members continued canvassing peaks and rivers. Sam's mother described in later Facebook posts how she and supporters climbed ridgelines, scanning valleys for possible signs. She would later tell reporters she believed he was well equipped and able to last. Official records, however, remained cold. RCMP reported no credible evidence of survival by that point. The hinge pressed harder. If his equipment kept him alive, where was he drawing water, and how had he sustained fire in snowstorm conditions? On October 22nd, Kerr authorized a broader radius. By protocol, search grids extended into adjacent valleys, feeding toward the Muskwa-Kachika corridor. These are regions nicknamed the Serengeti of the North for their vast, untouched wilderness. Alpine tundra, spruce forest, and steep shale ridges make travel slow and dangerous. Volunteer reports logged steep climbs, ice-slick rocks, and sudden grizzly tracks. Air units scouted the Keeley Creek confluence, a place where some believed Sam might have tried fishing. No visible human presence was found. Standard drift modeling was applied to creeks to test whether supplies or clothing might have floated downstream. No objects were recovered. Kerr noted the discrepancy. Sam's family insisted he carried enough to survive, yet no items surfaced in over a week of intensive search. The hinge widened into uncertainty. Had he moved farther than anyone expected, or had signs been buried beneath successive storms? By October 24th, weather hardened. Snow fell again, bringing accumulations of more than 6 inches. Volunteers spoke of visibility dropping to yards. Helicopter crews suspended flights in unsafe conditions. Kerr shifted focus to reviewing search footage. He checked aerial photographs, comparing shadow outlines in creek beds, but no anomalies matched shelters. RCMP advised that survival odds were diminishing by the day. Still, family refused to abandon hope. According to Mike Reed, the Bonastics insisted on continuing their own canvassings. At the Buffalo Inn, conversations turned nightly to possible locations. The community around Pink Mountain lent fuel and supplies. This support showed determination, but did not change official status. Kerr filed his interim note. No confirmed evidence of life, no confirmed evidence of death. The hinge question now lingered openly. How long could one young man withstand such conditions without contact? On October 26th and 27th, RCMP pressed a final sweep. Mounted units from Randall County again combed river bottoms east toward Lake Marvin. Gridwalkers crossed over 2 miles surrounding the water treatment plant area near Canadian, hoping any lead might connect. Helicopters resumed once weather cleared, flying low over alpine passes. Kerr debriefed all units, marking negative returns. By then, volunteer energy was ebbing. Multiple crews had rotated twice, fatigue setting in. RCMP command reviewed options. They noted that search probability curves in such terrain collapsed steeply after 10 days without confirmed sighting. The hinge tilted toward the conclusion: would resources continue despite slim odds, or would the official order to stand down come? On October 28th, 11 days after the missing report, RCMP announced the official search would be suspended. More than 120 volunteers, canine units, aerial sweeps, and mounted teams had produced no trace. Police stated the file would remain open for fresh leads, but confirmed active deployment would cease. Kerr signed the closing entry of Phase 1. Sam's family, however, did not accept finality. His mother wrote of scouring peaks, rivers, and creek beds, convinced he remained alive. She told CBC News days later that he didn't go unprepared. Yet no evidence confirmed survival, and investigators had not said which valley he might be in. The hinge settled into silence. If he was alive, what hidden shelter was keeping him through the storms? By November 1st, 5 days after the official search stood down, the weight of silence grew heavier. Sam's mother spoke to CBC News, saying firmly that her son didn't go unprepared. She listed his toque, gloves, rain gear, hatchet, and peanut butter as evidence. She added that she believed he was still alive somewhere in the vast Redfern-Cayley wilderness. Detective Kerr logged her remarks, not as evidence but as a record of persistence. In his files, he underlined the problem of scale. Redfern-Cayley encompasses dozens of valleys and hundreds of square miles. Even with 120 volunteers, the search grids had barely scratched its surface. Residents in Pink Mountain speculated Sam might have made for alpine lakes to fish, or perhaps tried to walk toward well-site roads. No evidence confirmed either. Kerr noted the theories, but returned to maps. The open question lingered. If Sam was alive, was he stationary in a shelter, or was he moving, always just beyond reach? By November 3rd, the family expanded their own canvassing. Reports from Mike Reed at the Buffalo Inn confirmed the Benostics were still based in Pink Mountain, setting out each morning toward trailheads. In Facebook updates, Sam's mother described scouring peaks, hiking along creeks, and checking ridge lines. Volunteers from surrounding towns continued to join, though no longer under official RCMP coordination. Kerr monitored these posts. As protocol requires, investigators track family searches to ensure any leads can be folded back into case files. He noted overlap with official grids, but also marked that family teams had ventured farther into spurs, seldom traveled. The terrain grew more dangerous as snow deepened. Without helicopter support, ground searches risked frostbite and exhaustion. Kerr knew the line between determined canvas and personal hazard. He logged his concern. The hinge remained open. Would any trace emerge before winter sealed the high country? By mid-November, storms intensified. Snow drifts blocked some service roads, and ATV routes iced over. Yet Sam's mother kept describing efforts, insisting he could last with his supplies. On November 12th, temperatures again dropped below -20 Fahrenheit. Hawkins, the Prince George volunteer, later told reporters the conditions were incredibly challenging, confirming how difficult even short trips had become. Kerr compared those statements to survival models. With temperatures so low, a man without steady resupply would struggle to sustain. Still, survival could not be ruled out entirely if firewood, shelter, and food were secured. Community speculation grew sharper. Some suggested Sam had intentionally avoided searchers. No evidence confirmed that. Others said he might have collapsed in a ravine and been concealed by snow. Investigators had not said. The question sharpened. Was absence a sign of death or of extraordinary endurance? By November 20th, more than a month since Sam was last seen, hope and rumor diverged. At the Buffalo Inn, Reed said conversations each evening circled back to Sam. Truckers passing through Pink Mountain asked about the missing young man. Some believed he had reached service roads but been missed in storms. Others feared the worst. Sam's mother continued to post photographs of the mountains and rivers she was canvassing. Kerr noted these as unofficial but significant testimony of persistence. In his case, he wrote that family energy remained high despite official suspension. Such persistence often kept public focus alive. Still, the reality weighed. 50 days in that terrain was beyond normal survival curves. The hinge darkened. If Sam was alive, what shelter was sufficient against -20 storms, and how had no one spotted his smoke or footprints? On December 5th, everything changed. Workers grading roads near natural gas well sites south of Redfern Keeley saw a figure walking along the track. Mike Reed later said they told him, "The hell is that person doing walking on this road?" The figure carried 2 sticks, one in each hand, and his sleeping bag cut open and wrapped around his legs. It was Sam Benastic. Weak from weeks in the cold, he nearly collapsed, but managed to flag them down. Ambulance transport took him toward Fort Nelson Hospital. Kerr received notice through RCMP channels and logged the timestamp as early morning. The hinge shifted from silence to recovery. The central question emerged. Where exactly had Sam been for those 5 weeks, and how had he endured? Hospital staff confirmed frostbite and smoke inhalation, indicating prolonged exposure and fire building in confined spaces. Sam's mother, driving from Kamloops, arrived in Fort Nelson and posted a photograph of her son smiling faintly from a hospital bed, giving a thumbs up. She captioned it, "Complained that he hasn't caught 1 fish. He will make recovery, just need some time." Uncle Al Benastic said in interviews, "Imagine being out there, being that cold for that long." RCMP Madonna Saunderson confirmed Sam's own account. He had stayed in his car for 2 days, then camped on a mountainside creek for 10 to 15 days, later moving to a dried creek bed until his rescue. Kerr logged each element of the story, flagging them for correlation with search maps. The hinge pressed forward. Could his timeline be reconciled with why he was not found by any of the 120 volunteers? By December 6th, community reaction spread. At the Buffalo Inn, Reed said he felt emotional, having shared the long weeks with the family. "I've got 3 kids myself, and for him to find his son, it's just amazing." Eileen Stevens, Sam's grandmother by marriage, said she never lost hope. "Sam is a guy who knows the woods. He's been raised. He's a hiker. He's a passionate fisherman." She joked she would buy him a GPS for Christmas. Community supporters in Pink Mountain expressed relief and pride that persistence had led to survival. Kerr continued his investigator's stance, noting in reports that many questions remained unanswered. Why had multiple ATV and snowmobile patrols along service roads not intercepted him earlier? If he had been camped in a dried creek bed, why had air sweeps failed to catch smoke? The hinge now lay in debrief. Would Sam's answers explain the gaps? By December 8th, RCMP emphasized their relief. Corporal Saunderson said, "Finding Sam alive is the absolute best outcome." She acknowledged that questions remained about where he was and how he had survived, but said police were satisfied with the result. For Kerr, the procedure required full survivor debrief once Sam was well. Standard protocol involved mapping his movements against known grids, checking how firewood, water, and food were obtained, and testing whether his statements aligned with weather logs. Survival injuries provided clues. Frostbite implied prolonged exposure of extremities, while smoke inhalation indicated small enclosed shelters with fires. Each would be compared to terrain features. The hinge stood ready. Would forensic detail of his account reconcile with the silence of 5 weeks? By mid-December, community commentary spread. Online forums circulated speculation that Sam had intentionally hidden or perhaps wished solitude. No evidence confirmed those claims. Official reports remained clear. He was missing. He survived. He was found. Kerr filed interim notes, suggesting future survival training should update to consider how individuals might evade detection, even in official grid sweeps. Redfern Kiley's scale and conditions made certainty difficult. Still, for Sam's family, relief outweighed the questions. His mother wrote that he needed only time to recover. Uncle Al said he doubted the experience would turn Sam away from the outdoors. The hinge closed toward recovery, but left open investigation. In wilderness that vast, not all questions could be answered. Fact Ledger shows Sam Benastic departed October 7th for a 10-day trip in Redfern Keeley Provincial Park. He was reported missing October 17th after failing to return. Official search with over 120 volunteers, canine units, mounted teams, and aerial sweeps was suspended October 28th. His mother continued searching peaks and rivers, stating on November 1st that he was well equipped with gloves, toque, rain gear, hatchet, and peanut butter. No confirmed sightings occurred until December 5th, when survey workers found him walking near service roads at Pink Mountain after 50 days in the wild. He had cut his sleeping bag to wrap his legs and supported himself on 2 sticks. He reported staying in his car for 2 days, then in a creek mountainside camp for 10 to 15 days, then in a dried creek bed until rescue. He suffered frostbite and smoke inhalation, was hospitalized in Fort Nelson, and photographed giving a thumbs up. Corporal Saunderson confirmed survival as the best outcome. Residents speculated about intentional avoidance. No evidence confirmed it. Investigators have not said why. Canine teams, grid walkers, and air sweeps missed him. Records show only that against expectation, he endured 50 days and returned alive. The file on Sam Bonastic closed with a rare outcome for the northern backcountry. Survival beyond 5 weeks in sub-zero storms is not a statistic investigators often get to log. The official notes confirmed what had already become clear. He had suffered frostbite and smoke inhalation, yet he had walked out of Redfern Keeley under his own power and reached a road where help could find him. The unanswered questions, why no team crossed his path, why aerial sweeps missed his smoke, remained open. But they no longer carried the weight of life or death. What mattered for the family in Kamloops was that Sam returned. Detective Alan Kerr filed his final entry and moved on to the next assignment. For him, the record was simple. A young man went missing on October 17th. The official search was called off on October 28th, and on December 5th, he was found alive. Community speculation would linger, but the evidence stood where it always had. Cold, sparse, written into log sheets and time-stamped reports. In Pink Mountain, where the Bonastic family had waited for weeks, the story settled into local memory. The Buffalo Inn kept the photograph of Sam in his hospital bed, giving a thumbs up. The community that had fueled snowmobiles and walked frozen ridges carried the relief of seeing one of their own pulled back from silence. The wilderness held its mysteries, but this time it returned the missing man alive.